Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the year 2023. Joshua Whiteland's on the phone with us. We're going to do just a shorter Dispenza chat than usual, and just thought it'd be good to kind of kick off the new year. So, Joshua, how are you doing?
Absolutely. I'm doing good. I'm just enjoying my New Year day.
Well, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of people are kind of, I guess you could say, recuperating after a very busy fall season with all the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and all the festivities and events and things that go around that. So, it's kind of nice just to kind of sit and think about the new year coming, what we want to do in that new year, as well as going back through everything that happened. So what are your thoughts about all that?
Well, I mean, just I guess this during this season it's been pretty high energetic in my life, and there's been just a whole bunch of stuff going on, and it's been a lot of stress, and I've really had to really focus on, I guess, my practice, my spiritual practice, my meditation and stuff. And one of the things that kind of came into my life during this season was a couple books. One was called The Surrender Experiment, and the other one is called The Untethered Soul, both by Michael Singer. But what really spoke to me is that guy was talking about the voice in our head and how that voice is just always going and going and going. And that voice for me during Christmas really cranks up and starts really going and starts chattering in my head. Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, like we've talked several times about the committee in our heads.
Yes.
And I can tell you when I'm going to do a separate whole deal on this, but my wife went to Cancun by herself for the first time, and holy crap, if the committee in my head didn't get all fired up. It was a battle of the wits going on inside my head during that whole experience. But I really learned a lot about myself through the process. And, I guess just for me, it was just understanding that it's, I guess, a good thing that the committee is going on inside my head, because at least I'm aware of it and I'm listening to both sides. But then I guess it's which side do you ultimately agree with when it's all said and done.
Yes, absolutely. Even today, to be honest, like I've been like stressed out today. So the fact that you called and we're jumping on the call doing this, I think is like a great opportunity, to for, if people are listening, to see that, that we're all human. We all get in these kind of sometimes negative spaces or that committee going on in our head, and just to call and to talk to somebody about that committee, because
Yep.
the first part is becoming aware that the
That's
committee
right.
is not you. And for the longest time in my life, I thought the voice in my head was me, but it's not me. And then once I'm able to separate that, now I have like a choice. I can either
Well,
go with that. Do what?
let's talk about that statement that the committee in your head is not me. I'm sitting here listening to you say it. I'm trying to digest it in my own head. And I'm thinking, is it as simple as saying this, that the thoughts inside of our brain are just that? They're thoughts. And until the
Thoughts.
thoughts become an action, the action is our body producing thought into reality, right? So if all they are is thoughts, then they're not actions, and therefore they're not us.
Yes. That's perfectly said. They're just thoughts, and they come and they go. It's just what we do with
Mm-hmm.
it. It's like I could be driving down the road and I see a car, and I'm like, I like that car. I think I need that car. I think I want to buy that car. Well, it's just a thought, right? I could just as quickly say I like that car and then think nothing else about it. But if I start going on and I'm going to buy that car and I start shopping for that car, well, now I've become obsessive in some form, and that's when, and then I end up, and then later on, I'm thinking that car is going to make me happy, and I'm, whatever. And that's just one scenario, but like that's where my brain would go off thinking if something would change, then I could be okay. So my ultimate goal is just to realize that things are thoughts, to keep my mouth shut. We were talking about that earlier. My biggest thing is, for me personally, is knowing to keep my mouth shut, or don't miss an opportunity to keep my mouth shut. Let the thoughts pass, and then recenter myself, so that I'm not, because where I place my awareness like Dr. Joe says, where I place my energy. And recently I've been placing a lot of energy and into things that I really would rather not.
Well, let's go
place
back to
energy.
that whole awareness thing. You know, being aware is the first step, and it's not the first step and then you're done with it. I think it's a step that always has to be there. And I think I am becoming much, much more aware of myself over the last few
Yes.
months. And
Yes.
let me give you a very recent experience. Yesterday is New Year's Eve. Okay, what do most people do? I maybe I'm wrong when I say most people. What do a lot of people do on New Year's Eve? You know, they get together, they socialize, they drink.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's still a struggle for me, you know. And so I was really torn up inside because I'm like, man, I'd like to have a couple of drinks. Yeah, I didn't want to go get drunk or anything, but it was just that social aspect of having a couple beverages, you know, alcoholic beverages with people talking, the whole calmness that I know I would feel with drinking those couple of drinks. And so it was I guess you could say a temptation for me. And that committee was that committee was going on inside my head, you know. And I chose to listen to the committee that said, you know, Kyle, that's just one day out of the year. It's not a big deal thing. And you know, I'm not saying it was easy, but today, now looking back at yesterday, I'm really proud of myself. And I think that's something really important to say, is that when you're aware of what's going on and you have these thoughts and these battles within, and you get through the battle, I don't care how bloody the battle is. If you win the battle the next day, you could look at yourself and be very proud of your accomplishments, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Have you ever heard of the acronym FOMO? FOMO.
No.
That stands for fear of missing out. And I've noticed
Okay.
that, like with the situation you're talking about, I want to take part in something that I think other people are doing, I used to do. And I have this fear of missing out. And when I have that, and then my brain likes to tell me, like, you know, you're not, you could be having all this fun, you could be doing all this, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day, it's like, I really didn't miss anything. It's just this fear, you know, this fear of missing out. So sometimes in my house, we'll say, oh, I got some FOMO going on. I got some fear of missing out. So that way I can look at it. That's that awareness.
I'm going to use that term, FOMO.
FOMO, fear of missing out. Yes. You know, because that is, I'm always thinking that because all I want to be is whole, you know, is this wholeness. I want to have levity and happiness, and I'll have this fear that I'm missing out on that. If something doesn't just go my way, or if it doesn't go exactly how I think it should go, or things aren't happening in an order I think they should be happening in, then I think I'm missing out on fun or experience. That's not really true. But I like what you said about awareness, and I say the 3 A's: awareness. The second A is acceptance. So after we become aware, sometimes I can't do anything about it. Sometimes my head is spinning. Yep, I'm in my head. You know, I'm thinking about myself, right? And then my second part is acceptance. I've just got to accept. Yeah, I'm being selfish. I'm stuck in my head, and I'm wrapping around something. That's where I'm at. You know, acceptance, and then action is a third one. Action. What action to take? So generally, just like now, like when Kyle called, he's like, "You want to do this chat?" And in my head, my committee's like, "No, you don't want to do that chat. You just don't want to do anything." But then that's the action, right? I had the awareness, the acceptance, and boom, action. We're talking about it. We're making it public, and then guess what I get from that? I get to do something different, and I get to have probably a better day.
Well, we were before we started recording, we were talking about upcoming Dispenza events and things, and you know, my wife and I did something different. We've been to 4 different events over the last 12 months together as a couple, and as much as I didn't want to hear this, my wife kept telling me, Kyle, I think we need to go separate. And I guess maybe you could say it was my ego. I haven't really fully digested the reasons that I struggled with this. But anyway, the end of the story is she went by herself.
Yes.
And that we both had profound healing that came out of it. She had profound healing from the event. I had profound healing and self-awareness that happened from being separate and here at the house with the children. So now, as part of the agreement, she wanted me to go to an event by myself. And so coincidentally, you and I both are going to be at the Columbia event. You're going to be a volunteer, which is pretty freaking cool.
Yes. Yes. And coincidentally, my girlfriend went to Joe Dispenza by herself at the same time, just so that the audience knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were together. We were together in that situation.
We played Mr. Mom together. We supported one another.
Yes, we did. I think we did a good job.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, it was, I'll just leave it at this. It was intense. Now I do plan to, update my testimonial with talking about that kind of stuff. But tell me about you getting into the volunteer program. How did that all come to be?
Well, from the very first Joe Dispenza event I went to, it was just so monumental to me. It's like you've been looking for something your whole life and you don't really know what it is. You go to Dr. Joe. At least for me, I went to Dr. Joe, and with what took place and the meditations and everything, and I absolutely knew in that moment, I want to do this. This is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do. So as I started seeing people volunteering, I wanted to give back, because if you listen to one of our other chats, my first event was on scholarship. So after that, I was like, so much was given to me in way of Dr. Joe. I want to give back to this organization. And so then I asked to volunteer, and they said, well, you have to have been to 2 week-long events. And I was just like, okay, absolutely. I want to get going on this. And if I can create my own reality, I started creating, I went to Marco Island advanced follow-up. And then I went to Dallas week-long retreat. And then after that, Columbia came out, and I applied to be a volunteer because I had met the requirements of 2 week-longs. And I'd even had a dream about it. Then I think it was like a week later, I got accepted. I think I called you the day of. My application got accepted, and started that. I had to start that process of getting ready to go be a volunteer. But I'm just so absolutely excited to be of service. And I've also never been to South America, so it's just another continent that I'm gonna get to step on, and it's just a great opportunity, and I'm ready to see it from that experience, from being a participant to being of service and helping connecting with other fellow meditators or geniuses.
Well, I'm sure there's people out there that want to know a little bit more about what it is like to be a volunteer. So I would like to do another chat on this when you're finished with your service there. I do know, just from the times that I've been at the events, I've become friends with several other volunteers, and I see them when I'm at the events, and we chat. And one of the questions I had, because I had overheard a couple of volunteers talking amongst themselves, they were excited because they were going to get to participate. So the volunteers, are there to help with the participants of the event. But Dr. Joe allows the volunteers kind of on a rotational basis to participate in the meditations. And so I don't know if you get like half of the meditations in when you're there as a volunteer. Do you know that answer?
I don't know. As far as now, there's just been like a Telegram group created with the volunteers. We just making sure that everybody got lodging and all of that's squared away. And it's kind of going into the unknown, and I kind of like it like that. And as you know, Dr. Joe's every event's kind of different. And I'm sure I'm going to find out more. I think more will be disclosed.
Yeah. Well, the more I get involved in this practice, the more I too appreciate the unknown. That's a huge thing for me, is control. I'm addicted to that, and that's something I got to learn to let go, is control.
Yes.
hey, here,
What?
I'm going to be a walk-in. This is the first time I'm going to be a walk-in to Columbia. And I didn't, what frustrates me, and this is so cool. This came to my mind and I want to get this out there. Um, I've been looking at the Columbia event, and the registration was open for a long time. And so I'm like, I got time, and I never did register. And then we're at the Orlando event with my wife, and we're talking about it. Well, halfway through the event, they shut down registration. I was like, oh man, that sucks. And so I'm like, well, maybe this is just an experience for me to learn more about going into the unknown, taking some chances and see what happens. But one thing that was really cool is I was in a meditation at the Orlando event, and I had this fantastic series of visuals that happened. And, for those that don't know me, that's kind of unusual. I don't usually get a lot of visuals in my meditations. And this one visual, there was like, there was a bunch of people standing, and it was based on my perception that it was people, beings of some kind. They were black silhouettes, and it was like it was uh, imagine like a big choir on a bleacher kind of setting, but it was more in a half circle around my visual. And that was the way it started. And then I flashed to like seeing my legs, because at this part of the meditation, I was actually sitting up in the chair. And I started to see my legs. Now, remember, I've got a mask on and I have my eyes closed. And all of a sudden, I can see my legs where I'm sitting. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I lift my head up, and I could start to see the whole ballroom coming into my vision. And it was black, kind of silhouette, and then it started getting kind of like grayscale. And then it was almost like I was seeing true color. And that was when I saw the silhouettes of all the people around. And my feelings about that was, it was like people observing our actions, which was just phenomenal. And then my visuals switched, and I started to see what I could describe as a hotel courtyard. And I saw concrete, a swimming pool, grassy areas, these big, beautiful palm trees. And then behind the palm trees was the facade of a big, multi-story building. And I remember that so explicitly, because my mind started thinking about it, like, why am I getting this visual? And the first thought that came to my mind was, I wonder if this is going to be somewhere at the hotel that I'm staying at in Columbia. And so I kind of forgot about it for a little bit. And then I remembered again, and I was like, do I want to keep this thing in my head and try to find a hotel that matches this? Because I hadn't picked out a hotel yet. And the Las Americas hotel that's at the Columbia event is booked. You can't get a hotel room there. And I was like, no, Kyle, just forget about it. Don't worry about it. Let's just see what happens. Be whimsical about it. And so that's what I've done. I booked a hotel. It's only about a 3-minute walk from the convention center. So I'm kind of curious, Joshua, to see when I get there, if this visualization comes to be.
Yeah, I bet it will be.
Isn't that cool?
That is.
I'll have goosebumps all up and down my arms, my hair, my back, and my neck will stand up, and I'll do one of those things that Dr. Joe does. He's, how he stands up on stage and he's like, like, what the heck just happened?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think, I don't remember if we talked about it in any of the other ones, even how me and you met and started doing this, how like we ran into each other at all these events. And the first time was in Cancun in a parking garage, like underneath, like nobody else was down there. And it was just me and you. And we both happened to be, we both lived in the same town in Texas, and all these synchronicities. And so, I'm absolutely, that all being said, I'm absolutely a believer in, all the things that take place ever since I started doing this work.
I know, it's cool. And that's so important, I think, to start to become more and more aware of synchronicities, not forcing the issue, like I think at the last event, Dr. Joe was even saying that he's like, don't think that an available parking spot is a synchronicity or this or that.
Yes.
So don't reach for synchronicities,
No.
just let
But
them
be open
happen.
to it.
Be
Yes.
open. That's right.
Yes,
Yep.
that's yeah. The more when I start to like search and search and search and search and search, and then everything, I mean, everything becomes, uh, becomes, I guess, almost saturated. But if I'm just open to allowing things to unfold, I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea, what 6 months ago at Cancun that all of this would transpire. I think that's that. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. And we talk about like willingness, and I think like sometimes desperation, and
Mhm.
what that looks like for me is that a lot of times my brain tells me, uh, no. It tells me no, you don't want to do this, or this is not going to be comfortable, or it's basically the animal body is basically I'm all this chatter in my head, and what I do is I just put myself in a position to be successful, and how I do that is I just put my body there. Because so even if I don't want to do something, I don't want to go to this meditation, or I just show up. I just take my body there and allowed for whatever happened to happen. And since I've been doing that, it's been very successful. And that could be the gym. If I want to go to the gym, I just take myself there. If I start to build up in my head that I'm going to do all of these exercises or whatever, and then I don't do it, and then I feel down about it. Instead, I just make it a much smaller goal. I'm just going to go to the gym these days a week. I may just sit there. I may work out, or I'm gonna sit down for meditation these times a week, and I'm gonna turn on a meditation and just see what happens. And that makes it a lot easier to have that willingness, and I guess that way.
Well, that's what I've been doing. I kind of shared that with you earlier. It's like, okay, so my wife went to Cancun the second time by herself, had tremendous results. And now there's a little bit of pressure on me to have similar results, and so, but similar in the sense of just amazing level of performance. And so the pressure is one thing, and I think pressure is bad because it creates these expectations, and expectations can limit the effectiveness of meditation. But I guess what I'm doing, what I would think is correctly, is I'm basically every day for the last 3 weeks and every day from now until Columbia, I'm just putting this intention out to the universe that I want to be the best version of Kyle, and I don't care what it is. I'm going to trust the universe to show me what the best version of Kyle looks like. And I'm surrendering to that, to say, look, I'm just going to make myself available and put myself in the best possible condition to receive. And so what I'm doing is I'm some people may say, what, you have to do all this? No, this is not necessary, but I guess I'm just an aggressive personality, and I'm getting to a point of more of self-manifested desperation. It's like I'm not in a point of desperation because I'm on my deathbed. I'm not in a point of desperation because I'm about to lose everything. um, I'm at a point of desperation. I call it self induced desperation because I'm making a choice. I'm saying, look, I'm tired of the way I am. And now I've
Yes.
become so aware of who I am through my meditation practice. Now I'm aware of the conscious decision that I want to be different. And so I'm doing an aggressive weight loss campaign. I'm doing an aggressive physical fitness campaign. I've reduced my unhealthy eating so that my body is pure. Now, a pure body is good for health, good for physiological changes, but also your mental capacity. Um, I've been meditating on average 2 hours a day, sometimes 3 hours a day. And I've found that to be very, very beneficial, and I want to keep doing that up until Columbia. And then just being of a mindset. So you know I don't think I've told you this yet, Josh, but my wife and I both are um the same birth sign. We're both Libras. And I recently, synchronicity, okay, I found a video. It just popped up on my YouTube channel, my YouTube feed, and it was talking about the sacred oil, the sacred secretion. And I'm just going to glance over this topic right now, and then we can get deeper in it later. But it's just one of the
this is a
things
big
that
topic.
this is something I'm doing right now as part of my preparation for Columbia. I'm really practicing raising the oil that we get on a monthly basis that enlightens us and it increases your pineal gland opening. So raising the oil is part of having our bodies in a physical fitness position. So it all
Absolutely.
works. It all works together. And then there was something else that I was doing before Columbia, and I'm trying to remember what it is right now. But just preparing, getting ready, setting the intention, really. I don't know how else to say this, Joshua, but I am a different person today than I was even just 2 months ago.
Well, I was going to
And
say that. I was going to say that, like, even it's sometimes harder for us to see the growth in ourselves as much as it is for others to see the growth in us. And since I met you till now, you've had tremendous growth of surrendering, letting go, your outlook, your what you want, what you want, the goals that you're setting and shooting for is you're like a night and day person from 6 months ago. So definitely kudos to the work that you're doing.
well, it's I really appreciate that, and I'm humble and I feel blessed. There's a lot of people, Josh, that would love to go to just one Dispenza event. And some of those people may be listening to this and they may be thinking in their head, man, these people are, unrealistic to be able to go to multiple events a year. And, I do feel very fortunate that we've been able to go to, 4 events together. My wife has been to 5 events in a calendar year. But what's interesting is, the struggle is very, very real. And you kind of hit on the animal part of our bodies. And for me, the first event was Cancun, where I met you the first time. That was in June or July of this year. And I was there for my wife. I, looking back now, see this so real. I was there for my wife. I wanted to find help, wholeness. But when I look back, I could tell that 80 something percent of my presence was there just to help my wife with all of her health. And
Yes,
that has diminished after every event that we went to together leading up to Orlando, which was the last event that I was there as a couple. And that was the first event where I did not feel my body clawing and tearing on the inside about halfway through. So let me be a little more articulate. The first event wasn't so bad because I was really distracted with my wife. I had to help her. She was so physically unable even to go to the bathroom. I had to help her. She'd hold on me. We'd be walking together. And about middle of the way through the event, it was so hard for her even to go to the restroom. There was a very nice younger lady that was at the event that became friends with us, and she would see us from afar and come over and be like, "Hey, can I help her?" And so she would help her go to the restroom and stuff. And the second event that I went to as a couple with my wife, that was the one where I really started to see. And so I think you could say safely that maybe I was 60% there for my wife and 40% for me personally. And I started to feel my body just like kicking and fighting. And then the third event, maybe it was like a 50% there for my wife and 50% for me. And my body was kicking and fighting even more. And my wife would say this, that she felt like her experience was hindered because she would see me and how irritable I was and everything else. And it was after about 3 days. It took 3 days to get to the apex of my body fighting and kicking and screaming. And then I would give up and then I could enjoy the rest of the event. But Orlando was so cool. I did not have that happen.
that's incredible.
And so but I share all of this because you have these people that might be judgmental or upset that they can't go to an event. And I'm trying to share that,
Oh,
it's a process. And
yes.
and that I just remembered what I was going to say. I was talking to my wife. I was like, hey, for those people who can't get to an event, is there a way that we could duplicate it at our own house? And so we started calculating, well, how many hours do you meditate? And we figured out it's about 35 hours over 7 days. I was like, well, there's no reason.
Really?
It is, yeah. And so I'm like, well, there's no reason why a person, if they were really dedicated, they could do that, find a way, get up at 5 a.m. and do an hour and 15-minute meditation. Then on your lunch break, do another 45-minute meditation. Then when you get home, another hour and 15-minute meditation. And you're going to get really close. If you do that over 7 days, you're going to get really close to the same level of meditation. And then I was looking at what kind of meditations do you do, and how does Dr. Joe typically orchestrate the days, the events? And my wife reminded me, Dr. Joe spends really the first 3 days focusing on your heart and your energy centers. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. She goes, Kyle, why do you think that when you go and look on his shop online to buy meditations, why do you think he's got 12 different ones for blessing of the energy centers? I'm like, well, you got a good point,
Yes.
and he's got a bunch on heart brain coherence, but only a
Yes.
few for all the other stuff.
Yes.
So, and again, so could you duplicate or replicate to some level the experience of going to a Dr. Joe event at your own house? And I think, yes, if you start getting really good at channeling energy to where you could tap into the energy of an event, just in your mind, set the intention, universe, I would like to channel the energy from the Columbia event here at my house. And,
Yes.
and then just in meditation, but you're doing this for good, solid reasons. You're not doing it for anything immoral or wrong. I feel like you could do this, and my wife is going to do that. What she told me, she's going to be doing a lot of aggressive meditation while I'm in Colombia. I did that to some degree while she was in Cancun. And I've had some experiences where I get visuals of what the event looks like when I try to tap into the energy of the ballroom at whatever event I'm thinking of. Sorry, I kind of went on a long tangent.
That's okay.
What do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
I think people can get the benefit even not attending the event. But the one thing that is nice is you do meet such awesome people at these events, and there's a fellowship and there's a bonding to what they call the tribe. That's all wonderful stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, why don't we just wrap this call up for now, Joshua, and we will do another one shortly. So just give me a 2-minute conclusion on what your thoughts are.
Well, I think I'm ready for this Happy New Year, and I love the work we're doing. I just tell everybody not to to keep having hope, and just so excited to be able to bring this on the first of the year, this experience and our journey and our growth, and I just look forward to the future and what we're going to do next.
Yep, that is my sentiments also. It's a fresh year. As we always talk about, living in the present moment.
Yes.
Nothing of the past should hinder our ability to dream and pull from manifestation of what the new year looks like. So
yes, absolutely.
All right, brother, always good to visit with you. Until next time, take care.
You too. All righty.
All right, bye.